Welcome to Mild Moodcast, a podcast meant to explore mental health through the lens of another human hanging on by a thread. I'm Bianca, the registered mental health counselor intern, soon to be LMHC, here to chat about the topics we don't get enough of. So grab your headphones and let's dive into the crazy world of mental health. It's going to be a wild ride. Hi again, guys, and welcome to episode 2. Lost in Plain Sight. I know that I said these were going to come out every Thursday, and I promise I'm working to get myself back on track. As you can hear, I'm still pretty sick, but I lost a significant amount of my voice, and if you're going to have a podcast, you've got to be able to talk, right? So for those of you physically watching, you'll notice that today is through StreamYard. This is the first time that I've ever used this platform. It allows you to download everything separately if I just want the MP4, if I want the video. So I'm very excited to use it. If it all goes well, then I will continue to do this. So obviously in our last episode, we left off on discussing things that are fun but not important versus things that are important but not fun. So today's episode will take a look at ways to set boundaries and plan for those activities, as well as discuss things like tunnel vision, paralysis, and brain crash. So when it comes to activities that are important but not fun, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to need to get acquainted with a planner, whether it be digital or the kind that you write in. Honestly, any activity at all needs to start being scheduled, but we'll get into that. First, I want you to take everything that you know about planners and I want you to toss it to the side. Some of you probably got super excited that I said that, and others were like, oh, hell. But hear me out. There's a reason that I'm saying this. So why is it important to have a planner? Now, mind you, we're not wired to easily get through different activities, right? So since we're not wired, we need to keep track of the things that we have to do and the things that we need to keep ourselves feeling good enough to keep going. It happens so many times where we start to do these things that are fun and, oh yeah, it's going well. And then suddenly there's a crash and I've forgotten anything that sort of takes care of myself, right? So a planner gives us the space to do exactly what it says, plan. That's the whole point. I want to be able to plan for an activity. So with that being said, the question now is, how do we plan? If you're watching this, obviously you can see that I have this random ass background, but like, hey, at least we're horizontal this time. Also, thanks for watching or listening either way. So before we can plan, one thing that I have to point out that's really, really important is if we have too many goals, we're going to get overwhelmed. Right? So if I think of everything that I need to do and say it comes to, 20 things, I'm going to be stressed. I'm going to feel stuck and might even feel like I'm behind, right? So we need digestible bites. If I look at it and go, yeah, I need to do this, and that, I'm going to go, oh my God, I have no idea where to start or how to start, right? So digestible bites, breaking larger tasks into smaller parts. You might have heard this in school, digestible bites, right? So when a task feels daunting, breaking it down helps it feel more manageable. Instead of writing clean the kitchen on your to-do list, be specific, right? Wash the dishes or wipe down counters. For tasks that can easily be broken down or that can't easily be broken down, set time limits. So instead of being like, yeah, I'm going to exercise, say use the treadmill for 20 minutes because what does exercise really look like, right? Gotta figure that out. So also, figuring out our procrastination behaviors. This is a really big one because when we get stuck on those procrastination behaviors, it's damn near impossible to pull yourself away from it. But if we know what those procrastination behaviors are, they're easier to interrupt. So you want to try to make a little list on your phone or in a journal. One thing about, our journey is needing a journal, needing a planner, needing the ability to write things down. Some of you might be typers, which is why I said in a little phone note, that's perfectly fine. Some of us don't like to write. Others go ham, writing all the time. So what are procrastination behaviors? Things that are mindless and unproductive, not necessarily fun, but they're easy. So it might look like flipping through channels on TV, going into TikTok to start scrolling when you have other things to do, checking your email. Nobody really enjoys checking your email, although deleting them sometimes can be satisfying, but usually it's just something that we're doing because it requires less work to get it done, right? So it's super easy to fall into these behaviors, like I said, and it's hard to stop them once you get started. So being aware allows you to kind of cut them off. If I know that I'm leaning into grabbing that remote, ooh, I'm doing this to distract myself. Let me get myself back on track. So if we can sit down and really just notice what are the things that I do when I start to feel a little overwhelmed or when I start to want to distract myself from whatever it is that I'm doing, that's when I start writing that down in that journal. Other things that are really helpful to, this whole planning journey, right? Because really it is a journey. Creating a distraction-free area for completing tasks. That sounds really simple, but it's true. If you sit there with your cell phone beside you and your screen keeps lighting up while you're trying to do something important, you're going to look at the screen. Flip that phone over, put it away, pop in some headphones and do white noise. White noise, there's brown noise, and not the hilarious TikTok ones, although that was funny. But you have those options because they help get you in the right mindset. And sometimes it's harder, like if you're a mom and you don't really have the ability to pop in headphones, that's okay. But maybe if your children are old enough, putting them on an activity or putting them down for a nap and using that nap time. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, I tried that, but there are other things that we can do. If you put them down for a nap and maybe it didn't work before, all right, let's change the scenery. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier for you to go sit outside and do it. Maybe it'll be easier for you to do it at a different time of day, right? There's a lot of different options and you are the expert in your life. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to give you things that can help. So distraction-free area includes the babies. Now, if we can't help it, obviously if you've got a newborn, if you've got a young child, that's okay. You work with what you can. Doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect, but any additional distraction outside of your kids should be shifted out of the way. Next, knowing your objective and sticking to it. No shortcuts. If I say that I need to do something, I need to do that. If I say that I need to go to Walmart for milk, I need to go straight to that milk aisle. I'm not going to go through the makeup and through the clothes and all these other things. Like, how they say when you go shopping at Target, you don't tell Target what you're going to buy. Target tells you what you're going to buy. We got to cut that out. I mean, same. It's relatable, honestly. But if we're there for something, get the thing, right? But also reward yourself for completing tasks. Dopamine hits, treat yourself. If you do something, reward yourself with ice cream. Reward yourself with, I don't know, buy something small for you. Buy something for your kid. Whatever it feels like, whenever it gives you that feels good, when you get that dopamine hit, whatever you enjoy is what I'm getting at here, right? Something positive, a piece of chocolate, a nice meal, go out to dinner, whatever, maybe a 20 extra minutes on TikTok. I talk about TikTok so much because I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm a little addicted. Can't help it. But whatever that reward looks like for yourself. So in terms of planning and, schedule creation, we might ask, well, how the heck do I do that? So we kind of have to set aside time for everything. You have to set aside time for yourself. You have to set aside time for your relationship. You have to set aside time for fun, for work, for all of it. Because again, it's not a part of who we are. I talked about those 6 stages in my last podcast. And it's just really important that since this isn't who we are, we have to try different things. I think I might have said, and maybe not, but I think about this a lot. If people learn differently, then that means the way that we are successful at different things in life is going to look different for everybody. But because it's not a part of who we are, we got to start somewhere, right? So setting aside time for a relationship. Sometimes, ADHD can make a person come across as like indifferent or uncaring in relationships, even though that's not the case. It's hard to interrupt yourself. Sometimes it's hard to sit still and listen. We might forget birthdays. We might forget anniversaries, and hopefully we don't, use that planner, cough, cough. But it's hard to juggle so many things at one time. It's amazing how if you have difficulty focusing on your partner, like after a long day, it can be taken personally immediately. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to spend time with our partner. It just might mean that our capacity is a little full, right? So it's important to communicate with your partner what you're experiencing and actually schedule little periods of time where you do nothing but listen. If we're going to schedule everything else, schedule that too. But let them know, hey, if I just got home, maybe right now isn't the best time for me to listen. Hey, I just need a few minutes to kind of come down from the day. And then on my schedule, okay, hey, you fully have my undivided attention. I want to give you all of me. So here's that time now. And people will appreciate that because 5 good minutes is better than 20 bad minutes. No one wants to feel half listened to either. And again, this might seem kind of silly to be like, wow, if you have to put this on a schedule, what kind of partner are you? The neurodivergent kind. A lot of times we judge the things that we need to do rather than just trying to aid ourselves in fixing them, right? I shouldn't have to feel bad if I know that right now is not a good time for me to listen. That's okay. Let me reiterate, though, that it is super important to have this talk with your partner before you're just like, hey, can't listen to you. Okay, here's your time, right? Because it does seem a little abrasive. So have that conversation. Hey, I'm going to start scheduling time to give you 100% of my attention. And if they don't really understand why, explain to them what you're going through. Explain to them a little bit about, ADHD. Give them a few things to read up on. Just, hey, I know you don't really get it, but I want our communication to be better. I don't want to create any more issues between the two of us where you feel like you're not heard or you feel like you don't have my attention. So I'm doing this for us. I'm doing this so that we both have our needs met. And usually people are going to be a lot softer about that fact than you'd think, right? So, okay, Bianca, you've told us that we need to plan, we need to have a planner, we need to be writing things in internals, but how the hell am I supposed to put my day together? That's a wonderful question. Now, setting aside for everything is important, right? You've got to have your big anchor tasks. Anchor tasks are eating, they're working, they're food. I already said eating. So you get it. It's eating, it's sleeping, it's working, right? So the rest of your day is going to revolve around these. You can kind of attach smaller tasks to your anchors. So like, I'll go for a walk right after dinner. That's a great task that you can assign to an anchor. Now, we don't want to get too excited. A realistic routine is so much better than a perfect one because we can be like, yeah, I'm going to schedule, the doctor's appointment and I'm going to schedule homework and I'm going to schedule time with the kids and I'm going to schedule my business and I'm going to schedule going out with family and like you're overdoing it. We're not going to stick with it, right? I don't want to schedule myself for a 3-hour session of something knowing I'm going to be miserable and not being able to sustain it versus scheduling myself for a 30-minute session for something. If it looks like studying, I will do so much better in 30 minutes than I'll do in 3 hours because eventually I'm going to lose my attention there. I'm going to lose the excitement of wanting to do it. So again, realistic, so much better than perfect, right? A lot of people have the worry that a structured day is boring, and it's not boring, right? It's only boring if you make it that way, which is why I said we kind of have to plan for everything. So if all you're doing is planning for work in your day, yeah, it might get a little bit boring. But if you're planning for fun activities in your routine and also, putting aside some time to be spontaneous, then it's not going to be as boring. I have the ability to put that I'm spending time with my partner. I have the ability to put that I'm working, that I'm eating, that I'm sleeping, and also that I want to do something for like an hour. So I get to decide what that thing is going to be when that hour comes. Or I can specifically say, I want to go to the mall. And knowing that I'm setting a limit on that too, because that's important. We talked about the things that are fun but not important being real easy to do. I might end up spending 3 hours at the mall. I could spend 3 hours at the mall, but I can't spend 3 hours studying. Go figure. Right? But especially when you're getting started, you really want to write things down. You want to set alarms. You want to remember to set reminders for yourself. Because again, this isn't something that's in you. It's something that you are teaching yourself to do. So you want to make sure that you have time to prepare for each task also. So like, okay, what's a good example of a schedule? This is actually something that I have. If you're watching this, obviously that you can see my eyes kind of keep going down because I have an iPad that I reference for the stuff that I talk about. But like an example schedule, this person wakes up at 7 a.m. and they get ready for the day. At 12 o'clock, they have lunch. 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, they exercise. But 4 p.m. on Sundays, they get groceries. 6 p.m. is dinner. 7 p.m. they study for 30 minutes. 8 p.m. they relax or have fun. And 10:30 they sleep. It's really very simple. Wake up and get ready, feed yourself, exercise or groceries, dinner, study, relax, have fun, sleep. Now yours might look nothing like that. You might have other things that you really need to get on your schedule, but putting them in digestible bites is what's important. If I can't focus on something for too long, put it in a shorter amount of time. Set a timer so that way you're able to stop yourself from going too far. The next thing that I want to talk about, and I promise that I'll get back into timers in a minute. It's just something that I'm talking about in a little bit. Tunnel vision, paralysis, and brain crash. Oof. Those are always so fun. So like tunnel vision, what's a good example of that? If someone asks you to clean a dirty area, you might clean a part of it and see it as finished, right? Which leads to them being frustrated at you. Hey, can you go clean the kitchen? Sure. And you like do the dishes. And then you're like, yeah, I did it. I did the thing. And now they're mad at you. You have an idea of what needs to be adjusted, and so do they. So how do we combat things like tunnel vision? Well, clear communication, specifics, just like on your planner. Give a person an example. I often talk to my clients about this one sentence. If I say, I went outside today and the sky was blue, you might be focusing on the fact that the sky is blue, and I might be focusing on the fact that I went outside today. So we need to check for understanding. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you are babying a person. No, you're just clarifying that communication. Instead of saying, can you clean the kitchen? Be specific. Can you do the dishes and wipe the counters down? Can you load the dishwasher and take out the trash? Tell people specifically. And also, if you are doing this for yourself, it will help you. It's just like I said earlier, instead of saying exercise, walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes. Being specific helps you get specific things done. So, walking with purpose can cause us not to look around. So if I'm only moving to do the thing and thinking nothing of it, then I'm only moving to do the thing. And it's not quite the same as hyper-focusing, right? So I'm walking through, have you ever had a parent go, I left that piece of paper on the floor for you, and I wanted to see how long it was going to take you to pick it up? I know I've heard it. And it's because usually I'm walking with purpose. That means if I'm getting up to go do something, I'm headed in a direction, and that is the only thing that's on my mind. So sometimes we recognize that it's there, but that's not what we're headed to do. That doesn't mean that a messy area doesn't bother me. And that doesn't mean that I've seen it. Ask me. And if it's personal, then we have to plan to get it done. So sometimes I've never seen that piece of paper a day in my life. Sometimes I recognize that the dining room table needs to be cleaned, but it's not what I'm doing in the moment, and I'll get back to it. So rather than assuming something doesn't bother a person, rather than assuming they are ignoring it, ask them, hey, have you noticed that the dining room table is messy? Is there any way that you can take care of it? Can you clean it off? Can you put the things away that are on the table? Can you make sure that everything goes where it's supposed to be? And a lot of times people get really frustrated because they're like, damn it, this is something that you should have learned. This is something that you should know, how to do. But because it's not, we need that grace. It's not like we're doing it on purpose. We're just usually walking with purpose. On the subject of paralysis and brain crash, there is overstimulation and overwhelm. That is usually how paralysis comes about, right? It can be emotional, informational, or sensory, which is going to cause brain crash. Analysis paralysis, if you've ever heard of it, that means you have too many choices. And then there's task paralysis. So you might feel hesitant. You might feel scared. You might feel unmotivated. I'm overstimulated and I'm overwhelmed, and now I can't do anything. And sometimes people don't think anything of it. Like, well, I've had the entire day off. How come I can't do anything? Because the rest of your week overwhelmed you, quite frankly, right? You might have still been overstimulated, and now you just need that time to decompress. So we ask ourselves, if I'm going through analysis paralysis, if I'm going through task paralysis, if I'm overwhelmed, if I'm overstimulated, and I'm experiencing that brain crash, how do I set boundaries for these issues? And this is where timers come back in. So I like to tell my clients that you want to do 2 timers. The first timer is going to tell you, hey, you're going to be interrupted and have to stop soon. This allows you some time to come to terms with the fact that you're about to be done with whatever activity you're doing. And you want to set the next timer within 5 minutes of the first timer. Have you guys ever set a timer and you hit snooze? Like, say that you wake up, you hit snooze, and all of a sudden the next one is like 10 minutes, and now you're possibly sleeping through the next one, or you've fallen asleep, or it's just gotten too deep, like you can't get up, or you completely forgot what you were headed to go do. Maybe you were already awake and you set a timer, but it's been 10 minutes now, 15 minutes go by, and oh, there's my next timer, and I've completely forgotten what I was supposed to do. It's because your timer is too far apart. So if I set a timer that tells me, hey, in 5 minutes, I've got to be done with this, my brain starts to process that interruption. 5 minutes later is close enough that I'm able to break away from it a lot more easily. So, mindfulness is really important, because overwhelm means I need a break. Just because I need a break on my day off doesn't mean I'm lazy. It doesn't mean that I am shirking my responsibilities in any way. So, okay, what does mindfulness look like? Mindfulness kind of looks different for everybody, but here are a few examples. Meditation. If you guys go to YouTube, there's the Daily Calm. On one of my iPhones, I have an app and it's called Insight Timer. Insight Timer is wonderful. There's guided meditation. There's just music that it'll play, whatever that meditation looks like for you. Maybe during meditation, it's prayer for you. That's perfectly fine. But time to connect with yourself and your body, and potentially, spiritual connection as well. Easy coloring books or pages. They are so slept on sometimes. Adult coloring books are my jam. Going to Barnes & Noble, or anywhere that sells them, but Barnes & Noble more recently has had a few that I like. They have adult coloring books. We stopped doing these things that helped us regulate when we were younger. There's nothing wrong with sitting there doing coloring books or pages, doing a body scan, doing things like journaling. If you're going to journal, maybe you need to do a brain dump. Maybe you're sitting there on your day off so overwhelmed, and I've got this analysis paralysis because I got all these things to do and all these choices, and I can't seem to do a single one. I need to do a brain dump. Get out a piece of paper and just write every single thing that's on my mind down. In no particular order. Just write it down. Or pull up your phone, type it out, click the little microphone, talk to it, get all of that stuff out. And then there's also the 5 senses exercise. Sometimes for people, this overwhelm meshes with anxiety. And what's the 5 senses? Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. After you do that, you'll be surprised the way that your body feels. Doing things like deep breathing, sitting outside. Add in a reward with limited time. If I say, okay, I have all these things to do, I'm going to make a plan to do 3 of them. 3 is so much better than 20. I'm going to choose to do 3. And maybe in the middle of those 3, I need a little bit of a break. That's fine. I'm a human being, right? I'm allowed to take breaks. So I take this break, but I set a 20-minute timer for whatever it is that I decide to do. Maybe that is, going outside. Maybe that's my reward. That's the way I feel about it. Turning on the TV, setting a 20-minute timer, but also really setting a 15-minute timer, right? Because we need to. So at 15, I remind myself, okay, 5 more minutes, and then boop, that 5 minutes is done. But that reward with limited time allows you to get back on track. I know what I need to do. Okay, I've taken my time to relax. That way it doesn't get too out of control. I am a firm believer in the 3 things a day. And if 3 things a day is too many, 1 thing a day. 1% better is still better, right? So if I have 20 things to do and I get 1 done, I now have 19. And I get another 1 done, I now have 18. And so on and so forth until I have none. I'm allowed to take digestible bites. I am allowed to not have to push myself point of no return because we already know how that works out. I get stuck. I sit there. I don't have the ability to do anything. I don't have the capacity for conversation. You know what I mean? And it looks different for everybody, but allowing yourself that mindfulness time is so important because then I can really check in with myself. If I'm not checking in with myself, I don't know what's wrong. If I haven't thought about the fact that work has been stressing me out for days, my coworkers are assholes, then I'm just knowing that I can't seem to do things and then I get down on myself for it. I got a lot of factors that are affecting what I can and cannot do, but I'm mad at me. I got to give myself the space to be okay. Think about that. The next time you start to get mad at you, hey, what are the things that I'm experiencing? Have I given myself the space to relax? Should I go touch some grass? I love saying that. Touch grass. Let's go outside and touch some grass. You just need it. Even me, I'm a therapist and I get so I don't even know. I don't even know the word. Just, I can't talk to anyone. I get frazzled. That's my word. And that's my brain crash. Actually, I call it frazzled. And I have to go sit outside just in the sun, in the silence, no phones, no nothing, to just reconnect, make sure I'm still alive, make sure I'm okay. And I'm a therapist. I got training. And sometimes I forget that training, or sometimes I will use that training as an excuse to shouldn't be feeling that way, but we're really human. So give yourself the time to come back from whatever it is that is stressing you out. Work on you, do some things for yourself, and try to put it in a positive light. I'm doing this for me because I deserve it. And who cares what other people think? It's not their life, right? You do this for you. You can express yourself and say, hey, I'm feeling stressed. I'm going to take some time for me. So that is the end of episode 2. I really appreciate you guys for your patience for this episode, being late as life. Hopefully I'll get the other one just as soon. I don't know if they'll be released in the same week. If I have the time, great. If I don't, I don't know. But either way, I'm just working on feeling better. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to, put them in the bottom of the box that asks, what do you think of this episode? As my little outro will say, the conversation does not end here. Write it on the YouTube comment page. My brain completely lost what it was called, but message it to me on social media. I don't care. If you want me to talk about something in particular, please do feel free to send it in, but definitely let me know how using some of these things works for you, because I'd love to hear about it. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Mild Moodcast. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. If you have any burning questions or topics you'd like me to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on YouTube at Mild Moodcast and Instagram at Mild Mood Therapy. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the wonderful world of mental health together. Until next time, stay curious and keep smiling.